Oh, how's it going, ghouls and not ghouls? It is the fourth Q&A session, and it comes on Halloween. So happy Halloween to everybody. Hope your Halloween is going just splendiferous, and hopefully everything's going well. Hopefully you get all the candy you want if you are going trick-or-treating, but if you're going out doing other social activities, hopefully that is going well, but hopefully you guys are being safe about it. So before we get into some of the questions, you do notice that on my Dale Jr. wall, there's something missing. But I do have something for you. A little unboxing. So I got this at Toys R Us just tonight. About $22. And so if you guys didn't know, Lionel did a special little deal where all of the Hendrick Lionel cars with their throwback schemes came in one deal. So here's Jimmy Johnson right here, Dale Jr. right there, Chase Elliott right here, and then you got Casey Kane right here. So all the throwbacks are right there, and we'll just go right ahead right now and devalue Dale Jr.'s car here for a second. Here's the beautiful car. I want to zoom in on this precious little vehicle. And we'll go ahead for now. We'll put you in this brand new spot. And we'll go from there. Also, if you're wondering, I am in costume. And if you know who I am, then 10 points to Griffdawg. So with that being said, if you know who I am, comment down below. Hopefully you guys know who I am. Old cartoon. And if you don't, then just look at the comments. As I mentioned before, someone will. And as I said, we'll kind of go from there. There are two other things I do want to mention before going into the comments. There are two types of questions I will avoid. The first type of question is any requests, saying, will I do any what ifs of this type, or can I do a series for this, or something like that. I'm not going to answer those on air because I don't want to put any false promises out. So with that being said, I'm not going to go ahead and answer or talk about any of those. If there is something that does come up that does interest me, or if I do have the time for, I'll go ahead and message them personally, and then we can just go from there. The other type of question I will not answer, at the beginning at least, is when is the next episode of One More Spark? I feel like I need to preface this now because I will talk about One More Spark at the end of this video as my little update, if you will. And so again, I just want to get that out of the way so that I'm not bombarded with those kinds of questions moving forward. Okay? You understand me a little bit? You okay? Okay? Okay. Great. All right. So let's go ahead and let's answer some of your guys' questions. So something a little bit different I did for this Q&A is that I did open it up to my social media as well. And so I asked people, hey, if you have any questions on here, but you prefer not to ask them on YouTube, you're more than welcome to do so. With that out of the way, let's start with some of the questions from Instagram. So a couple of questions I got. First of all, from Ryan Karp. Ryan Karp asks, what is one NASCAR crash that could have been a lot worse had it occurred slightly differently? I would probably say Cody Coughlin's crash earlier at Talladega this year. The truck that hit him got a little more air, or like if the collision, if you will, was higher speed, or if Cody's truck was turned a little more differently, then I think his truck probably could have gotten into the cash fence and his truck would have been destroyed, the track would have been destroyed, and who knows, maybe some audience people, fans, what the heck are audience people? I don't know. Fans would have been injured. So I think that would have gone a lot worse, but thankfully, it did not. Redline Racing League asks, what am I going to, or were you depending on when this is for Halloween? I mean, look. I also even have red socks, if that helps at all, and that just shows how flexible I am. So, yeah, I'm not going to say who I am, but, on the contrary, if you guys know exactly who I am, then as I said, you can get 10 points to Gryffindor. And no, it has nothing to do with Harry Potter whatsoever. Jordan Powell 78 asks, what's my favorite race that I've been to, and if I haven't been to a race, what's my best or favorite one I've saw? So I have talked about this a couple of times. When I was little, I went to the Busch Series, which is now the Xfinity Series, at a track called Pikes Peak International Raceway, a 1 mile oval that closed after 2005. Race, or most favorite race I saw? Probably, it's a tough one, but I'd probably say the 2014 Daytona 500. It was so emotional to see Dale Jr. finally win the Daytona 500 after not winning for 1.5 years. Mikey Racer 26 asks, who will be my favorites for the playoffs next season? I guess I can give 4 drivers. 4 drivers that I feel like will be for sure in the playoffs next season. I would say Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano will be back, and Ryan Blaney. I think Ryan Blaney, especially being in Penske equipment, I think he'll be back and stronger than ever next year. NASCAR Savage asks, if Richard Petty was still young today and had the endurance that he did back in the day to win races with the Gen 6 cars and new changes, would he still be the best driver in NASCAR? No. And the biggest reason why, the teams are so competitive these days. Back in the day, Petty was so dominant. They had the sources and they had everything going their way. But nowadays, because you have Gibbs, Hendrick, Roush, Penske, all at such high levels, Petty will still be good, like he'll win races, but competition is so fierce, and Jimmy Johnson, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, all at their top levels. I don't think Richard Petty will have as many wins now as he would back in the day. C Miller 078 asks, would you consider doing some smaller scale what ifs in the future, such as my what if Nato wasn't injured, if Brad K lost Dega 09, etc. This is a fair question to ask, actually. I know I mentioned before, like, am I going to do blah blah blah, but I feel like this is a fair question because of the stuff I did in the past. What my goal with One More Spark is to try to encompass as many what ifs as possible just to make it as one big what if. But I can definitely see, like, other little side projects. Like, for example, what if just Adam Petty didn't die? For now, no, because I want to focus on One More Spark, and I'll talk more about that at the end of this video. But that is a fair point. And it's something that, if the opportunity is right, I can definitely maybe delve back into. But for right now, I'm going to push that to the side and focus more on One More Spark. But no, it's a good question. And then the last question on the Instagram side, Riley H24 asks, what is the first moment of a certain race where you knew you were hooked on the sport? Probably the 1999 Daytona 500. Now, I mentioned in previous Q&As that the 97 Daytona 500 was the first real Daytona 500 I watched, but there were 2 cars specifically in that Daytona 500 that I saw and was like, wow. And those 2 cars were Tony Stewart's Home Depot Pontiac and Ward Burton's Caterpillar Pontiac. Both those cars were brand new in 1999, and when I saw those cars in action, like, I cannot explain it with words. There's just some beauty with those cars. The way the oranges, the way how the numbers are designed. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna move over to the Twitter side because I did have a few people ask me questions on there, and then we'll delve into some YouTube questions. Taylor Frey asks, what do I think of the NASCAR product today versus back then? Is NASCAR dying? No, it's just going through a new course in life, just as everything. Like, nothing stays the same forever. I know there's less fans, but does it mean that it's dying? I don't think so. It still has a hardcore fan base. I just wish NASCAR is more straightforward with its rules, but otherwise, I don't think so. Cameron Tracy asks, what track would I give a night race to? Talladega. As silly as it sounds, I just want to see, maybe do it just once, maybe like in the spring. Do one night race in the spring, see how it goes, and maybe like put it to the side after that. Alright, so now with those 2 out of the way, let's get into the meat of the conversation, and that is YouTube. Now, for the sake of time, if people do have multiple questions, unless they are like really close to each other, I'm only going to answer one question from each person. Okay? Good. So username.exe, he asked, Griff, if you were given the task of revamping all 3 NASCAR schedules, what race dates would you relocate? What tracks would you take off the schedule? what tracks would you put on the schedule and why? So I think, again, due to time, I'll go ahead and I'll say one track that should go in and one track that should go out. One track that should go in, I would put in another short track, and off the top of my head, I would probably say Irwindale. I would put a lot of money back into Irwindale, and we should have one big weekend in the summer where Cup, Truck, and Xfinity series all have a big short track bang going on, and there, kind of like the 2015 Summer Showdown, if you will, but it's like an actual race. And then if I would have to take out like a track, like a legit track, if I were to remove one race from the schedule, I would definitely say Dover. Because you know how Dover's like the Monster Mile and you hit the outside wall all the time, but like the cars are so like innovative now and drivers know better than to hit the wall that it's just not that dangerous anymore, and it's more boring nowadays. Joshua Hoffman, thinking ahead, asking, what's my favorite Thanksgiving food? Probably the sweet potatoes. Yeah, the sweet potatoes. I don't know about you guys, but I eat it with marshmallows. I don't know if that's too uncommon or not, but yeah, throw some melted marshmallows in with those sweet potatoes and good to go. Maple Boy asks, who do I think will win the World Series? I would say the Houston Astros. They're looking good so far, and I think they will pull it off. Paparino asks, Doggo or Cato? Cato. Yo. Nokia Cup Series, Martinsville at night, yay or nay? Yay. I would say do like what Bristol does, have one day race and one night race. And I would almost like having the fall Martinsville race be the night one, because it's like you're closing in on the season, it's like, you know, running off into the sunset, putting a close on everything. It makes more sense to have the night race in the fall. Marcus Vanderlee asks, what do I think about Bubba getting a ride next year at RPM? I say, yeah. Oh, that's so cringy. But yes, I'm very glad that Bubba Wallace finally has a full-time Cup ride. And I think I mentioned on Twitter, yeah, there was a picture of 5 guys, and those 5 being Darrell Wallace, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Daniel Suarez, and Kyle Larson. They all ran the Canon E Series in 2012. And I mentioned it on Twitter, but I feel like there needs to be a group, or like a group name. A name for those group of 5. Like, you know how there's that group with like Seth Rogen and James Franco and Jonah Hill, like they're called like the Rat Pack or something like that? We need someone like that for those 5. And so the name I thought of is the Good New Boys, because it's like the good old boys, but they're brand new. And so I'm thinking something like that. But if you guys have like a better suggestion for a name, please go ahead and put that in the comment section down below. I definitely feel like we need a name for that group. But I'm absolutely thrilled for Bubba, and I hope he does good. I feel like he has a good opportunity ahead of him. I just hope that he's able to push through with that opportunity. Corvette Racing 48 asks, what year do you think Jimmy Johnson will retire? I would probably say 2020. I know he has a few good years ahead of him, but I think 2020 will be the year he'll hang it up, and some fresh new face that probably like Todd Gilliland or someone like that will take his spot at that time. Napa 98 fan, you asked, if you ever wrote a novel, what would the story be about? Now, I like this question. I like it just because of how unique it is. Now this one I kind of want to take a little more time with. So the story I was thinking about, right, is I want to like talk about like the big what if of time travel, you know? Like you remember that movie The Butterfly Effect with Ashton Kutcher, right? Taking that and maybe like expanding more on that, you know? So like, let's just say you are able to go back in time, right? And let's just say you want to fix something, like you want to fix like a broken relationship. And then with that broken relationship, like you fix something, but then you go back to your time, but then something else is much worse. Like let's just say your mom is dead and you're trying to figure out, oh, okay, what happened to kill your mother? So you go back in time again and you figure out the point when your mom died or is dead. But then it's like when you go back again, then something else messes up. Like let's just say your car gets totaled. Then you have to go back to the future, and then it's like, okay, how did my car get totaled? And it's just like this never-ending story where it's like instead of jumping from location, you jump through time, right? And then your overall goal is you want to try to have your life be as perfect as normal, But the moral of the story is, no one's perfect. Philip Greenwald, you asked, is it possible for Truex Jr. to lose the championship? Of course. If he blows the engine and if he wrecks a couple of times, absolutely. I mean, look at Kyle Larson. Everyone said, oh, Kyle Larson's easily going to the round of 4, including myself. And everyone's wrong. Monster Energy Cup Series asks, do you like it or do you think you will like it? Like what? What's it? What is it? I don't know what it is, so you didn't say anything about a movie. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I know you're talking about the clown movie. That's why you put it in caps lock. It's a joke. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, I am actually not a big fan of horror movies. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. People like being like scared or they enjoy jump scares. I don't know. I don't understand the thrill behind it. But I have seen the reviews for it, and they say it's good, and I hope it's good too. I haven't seen it yet, but I hope it's good. Z-Man88 asks, what was your best costume you wore when you were little? So I think it was in 2nd grade, right? I was a wizard. I had this really dope purple hat that was sky high, and this purple robe. I looked like all Albus Dumbledore being fly and whatnot. And I had this awesome wand, and it was so cool. Kboy78, if you asked, if there was one Halloween candy you dreaded seeing when looking through your trick-or-treat bag, what was it? Another creative question. Thank you for asking that. I would probably say, Milk Duds. And the reason why, I just didn't like Milk Duds. They're so hard, you know? Because you try to like squeeze down on it, and it's so hard. Like, you get that little bit of that chocolatey taste, but again, it's like, and it's like, no, it was not appealing at all. And I would always try to give them to one of my brothers or something like that. World NASCAR Champions asked, Marvel or DC? On the movie side, Marvel, but on the comic book side, DC. And not just comic books, but cartoons as well. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is beautiful, and it is choreographed so well. I really hope the DC Cinematic Universe works out well as well, but it's being kind of forced, if you will, and like they're literally making movies just so that they could set up other movies, and they don't really put focus on those other movies, and it's a little disappointing. I really wish they could do more with that. Tasfabu 2009 asks, what is my favorite video game console? Game Boy Advance. When I was a little kid, I had one of those clear Game Boy Advances where you could see all the mechanisms inside. And on those long trips or on vacation, stuff like that, I would have that little light that would be above, and that would be on, and I would play Super Mario World all night long. Sonic Rules 831, how are you doing, buddy? You asked, what are your thoughts on the Rock Racing story you posted on Twitter? As always, I love your videos and I appreciate support from NASCAR. If you don't follow me on Twitter, which is Griffdawg Real, which I highly recommend that you do. The link is in the description bar below. I shared a story where it was really interesting that I will plan to, and it's a little bit of a spoiler, but it's not a big deal. So apparently there was a story, right, where Hermie Sadler and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson were going to team up and create a brand new NASCAR team for 2001. And it was going to be called like Rock Racing or something like that. And those two were supposed to pair up, but at the last moment, WWE came in and it's like, hey, we can't use that name, you can't use your likeliness from WWE, that's bad. Which kind of sucked because Hermie Sadler wanted to go somewhere, he wanted to be Rookie of the Year, and at the last moment, it just didn't fall through. So I will put that into One More Spark. I'm not going to say how or to what extent, but as the series continues to move forward, I will go ahead and utilize it. Mnan Racing, you simply put, of all of the 8 drivers that are still in, which one should technically be out, and then which one that's out of the 8 so far, or out of the 16 that have been out so far, which one would I want to put in. Of the ones out, I'd probably say Jimmy Johnson. Just if I could choose any one of the 8, I would say Jimmy Johnson, just because he's already won 7 times. I'd say let someone new or someone who hasn't won a championship in a while go on in and try it. And then the one driver to put in, Kyle Larson. He deserves it, and I hope he does win the title next year. Your creepy uncle asks, what is your favorite paint scheme so far in the 2017 Max season? Probably Dale Jr.'s Mountain Dew scheme. I like the green, I like the little wave design that's on the side of the car. I do appreciate both of those things. And as usual, it stands out so strongly on the track, and I can't wait to get a little diecast of that car. Angelo Haranas asks, which current driver could you see becoming a crew chief once they're retired? Brad Keselowski. Just the way how he talks and the way how his mannerism is, if he doesn't become a broadcaster, I could totally see him becoming a crew chief. Nas NASCAR Cup Series asks, if one football player could drive the 78, who would it be? Marshawn Lynch. I think beast mode, he will go ahead and he will plow that car and probably destroy a few of them, but hey, he's used to it. And he can bring Skittles along as a sponsor. Can you imagine that? A Skittles 78 Toyota? It could happen, you know. Kyle 1000991 asks, when it comes to NASCAR, are you more of an old school fan or a new school? I would probably say an old school fan, and it's just more of the reasons why I'm a NASCAR fan. And I got into it in, again, the late 90s, which was when NASCAR was at its biggest point in popularity. And as I mentioned before, the paint schemes, they're so unique and they're so ecstatic, and I just love the architecture of the racetracks, and I just loved how fun it was. Swagger42, how are you doing, bud? You asked, if you could bring back any driver or team into NASCAR again, who would it be? The team, I would definitely say Robert Yates Racing. I want to see that 38 or 28 cars back and competing in full swing. I am very disappointed that team did fall under, and I really wish they did come back. If there's any driver I do want to come back, that's a tough question. I don't know. I would honestly probably say Carl Edwards, honestly, in terms of driver, because I still kind of question how and why he decided to leave the sport. But I wish he would come back, but at the same time, I do respect his decision to leave, and I hope his future endeavors are going well for him. Trinity asks, do I have any siblings? Yes. 1 older brother, 2 younger brothers. No sisters. Some people say it's good. I kind of wish I knew what it was like to have a sister, but then again, that cat that you saw at the beginning of this video, she's a female, so whatever, I guess that works for me. Blake Walker asks, do you like collecting race version diecasts? If so, which one is the favorite that you own? No, actually. I don't know, there's just something about a race version that just, it feels so dirty to me, because it's almost like, you know, like an old diecast, it can get chip paint or dents or something like that. I don't know, that's almost like what a race version is. And throughout my whole life, I've only gotten one race version. And that's this. Kyle Larson's 42 car that he won at Michigan. And the only reason why I got this car is because it's the only version of the Target car that was available on the Authentics line. A little disappointing, but at the same time, it's a Kyle Larson car. The Retro Gamer asks, what is your favorite fast food restaurant? McDonald's, and that's just simply because I've gone to it pretty much my whole life. Lowe's48 fan asks, what is your favorite Halloween costume you have ever dressed as? Now this is different from the other question that I answered when I was a little kid. This question, probably my favorite one would be in 2012. I dressed up as Psy, and that was from that Gangnam Style song. And as you can see over here, this is me at my attempt to do the Gangnam Style dance. Some people thought I was good. I mean, it got a lot of likes on Facebook, but at this day and age, how much power is a like, right? This will probably be the only question I will answer, and I feel like it's a fair point. Xavier Quinlan asks, will Cup drivers appear in the Busch Series in Lamar Spark? Here's how I'm gonna go about that. In the very beginning years, so like 87 through I would say the mid 90s, the Cup drivers will probably make quite a few appearances just for the sake of filler and making sure there's enough cars that make each race. But as soon as we kind of establish the Busch Series and we kind of start making its own series, I'll have it so that cup drivers don't appear as much. And I'm thinking like maybe, let's just say 5 races a year. And I'm not gonna make that rule where it's like, oh, cup drivers can only race 5 races. It'll be that what if scenario where drivers are smart enough and they realize, oh, we should let these drivers, develop and make their abilities all the more better. So we'll stay to the side, let them establish. And once they're ready to go, come to our side so that then we can kick their butts, or they kick our butts, depending on how established they are. So that's how those cup drivers are gonna go. Nikki Dusty Owl asks, what's your favorite video game? Super Mario World. I love it because it's colorful and it's so simple. Jimmy999 asks, what kind of car do you have in your life? 2002 Toyota Corolla. I Hate Kyle Larson Owns You asks, what's your favorite horror movie? Not a big horror guy, but I would probably say Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Very dope movie from 1988, I believe. And I watched that movie for research purposes for one of my high school projects. Pichu London asks, where was the Summer Showdown going to be? I was supposed to do it this year, but I got canceled due to lack of time. But the Summer Showdown was supposed to be at IRP. I was going to have this campaign so that the Xfinity Series can go back to IRP, and it was going to be a big race, about 80 cars or so, and it would be like a short track format. But due to lack of time, that didn't happen. Dylan the Shiny Victini asks, what's your favorite Halloween car in NASCAR? Probably Ken Schrader's Halloween scheme from 2001. The one that I painted for One More Spark, which you can download in the description bar of that video. So the final question I will answer comes from Charles NASCAR Man, and he asks, favorite YouTubers, top 5 of them. I won't rank them, but at this point in time, I'll give you 5 that I normally watch. Those 5 being Chris Stuckman, John Flickinger, John Tron. I've gotten to John Tron a little bit more. Philip DeFranco, because of his news. I love the way how he goes about it. I love how he talks about both sides and then he speaks his opinion about the news, and I do appreciate that. And then the 5th one, Markiplier. With that being said, those are the questions, and I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them. It is because of lack of time that I couldn't get to all of them, but again, everybody that took part, thank you guys so much, and I do greatly appreciate it. The last thing I want to talk about before I wrap up this video is One More Spark. What's going to happen to it? Where am I going to go with it? Etc., etc. Now, because of my long work schedule, because if you guys didn't know, for the past 2 months, I've been working 50 hours a week. That's not One More Spark. I know that my videos are not coming out as often as you would like, but at the same time, I'm kind of prepping myself for the future. I won't get too in-depth into what I just said there, but that is true. So the way how I'm gonna go about 1987 One More Spark is this. What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna wait till, or not wait, but I'm going to make all the videos first of 1987. So like I'm gonna run all the races, I'm gonna paint all the cars, and I'm gonna make all the videos for all the races beforehand. And then the way how I'm gonna format it, it is a little different, and I do apologize, but I feel like it's more interactive. So what I'm gonna do is, with the exception of kind of like the beginning of the season and the Daytona 500, every single day for a month, you will get highlights from a weekend. So for example, the first day will be like the Daytona 500. I'll explain more about the Daytona 500 in a minute. But once the Daytona 500 is done, then the second day, that will be the second weekend, which would be on the Cup side, it's Rockingham, and on the Busch side, it's Hickory. So you'll get highlights from both of those races. And so it'll be like in One More Spark 2001, where you would get like some of the notes, how many laps, how many pit stops, etc., how many cars failed to qualify, if anybody. So it's gonna be like those little highlight chunks, but instead of having it be like a barrage of them, where it's a total of like almost an hour long, you're gonna get it every single day, and you're gonna get a little Hershey kiss every day. But here's the deal. You're gonna get it for a whole month. That's the hope and that's the plan. So like, Second day, you got Hickory and Rockingham. And then the third day, it's, let's see, Cup guys were at Richmond, and then the Bush guys, it would be like a Martinsville or something like that. And so, like, you know how like each weekend, and sometimes it's like, sometimes it's just Cup, sometimes it's just Bush, sometimes it's both. That is what will happen for each of those. But what I will do too is I will kind of do more of extended highlights. Like if there's a good finish, I will show the finish in full. Like for example, Darlington. When I do the Darlington one, the finish for that one was actually quite exciting. So what I'll do is I'll show like the final 4 laps in full, just so you guys can get the whole like finish. And a big reason why I'm switching over to this direction is because, I don't know if I did mention it, in one of the progress reports, I have upped the percentage of, or the number of laps from 10% to 15%. That way the race can develop more and more action can happen. On the flip side though, what I'm also going to do is I'm only going to run, or I'm going to make one full race. And that one full race will be the Daytona 500, and that's it. I'm not going to do any full races of anything else, but as I said, I'll do extended highlights of everything else. So that is the plan for there. And then if you're wondering on the Bush side, what I'm going to do for that, at least for this year, it'll be 25% of what a normal Bush race would be. So for example, the Bristol Bush race was 200 laps. 25% of that is 50. So it's still a lot, but the Cup side, it's 75 laps. So it is more, even though they're both technically shootouts, if you will. So it is a lot. Oh yeah, and one last thing too. I do plan to release all the replays of those races as well. So then you can see all the action take place yourself. It's just, it takes too long for me to make a full race. And if I want to do a full race for all of them, heck yeah. But I just don't have the time to do that. And I kind of want to progress through this kind of quickly. If you guys are a little confused by what I just said, go ahead and ask in the comment section down below, and I will try to answer them as best as possible. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this Q&A session. Thank you guys so much for your questions. I always do appreciate the support. And soon before you know it, 1987 One More Spark will be here. So thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I will see you next time.